Welcome to Istanbul, where the calls to prayer echo across ancient domes, where the Bosphorus carries secrets between continents, and where, unfortunately, some enterprising locals have turned tourist trickery into a fine art. I'm your guide through this maze of mendacity, and after countless visits to this magnificent city, I've learned every trick in the book, usually the hard way. So let's go through the biggest tourist scams in Istanbul and how to avoid them. 1. The friendship facade. Let me paint you a scene I witnessed just last summer. A young couple stood near the Blue Mosque, maps in hand and wonder in their eyes. That's when he appeared. Let's call him Mehmet. Charming, impeccably dressed, with English smoother than Turkish coffee. You look lost. American? Let me help you discover the real Istanbul. Here's what makes this scam brilliant. It weaponizes the very thing that makes Turkey special: its legendary hospitality. You see, Turkish people are genuinely some of the warmest hosts you'll ever meet. Scammers know this reputation and exploit it masterfully. The couple I mentioned, they ended up in a traditional restaurant where the menus had no prices. Their new friend disappeared after ordering, and they faced a €600 bill for what should have been a €30 meal. When they protested, two large gentlemen appeared to explain the billing policy. The secret to avoiding this? Real Turkish hospitality never comes with a sales pitch. Genuine locals might help you when asked, but they rarely approach tourists unprompted near major attractions. If someone's English is suspiciously perfect and they're extremely eager to be your friend, keep walking. Number 2. The Grand Bazaar Ballet. The Grand Bazaar isn't just a market, it's a 500-year-old theater where today's merchants perform age-old plays of persuasion. Last spring, I watched a master at work. An American family had barely glanced at a leather jacket when the show began. "My friend, special price for you because you're my first customer today." It was 4 p.m. The seller proceeded to offer them genuine leather jackets for $200. I recognized the jackets. They were synthetic and worth maybe $30, but the performance was Oscar-worthy. Phone calls to the factory for special discounts, elaborate stories about Turkish leather-making traditions, even bringing tea and snacks. But here's where it gets interesting. When the family tried to leave, he accidentally knocked over his tea tray. While helping clean up, his partner was switching the genuine leather jacket they'd been examining with a fake one. It's a classic misdirection play. The solution? Learn the old Turkish bazaar saying, "Pazarlık kamek lazim." Bargaining is necessary. Be prepared to walk away at least twice and never show too much interest. And remember, if someone says you're their first customer at 4 p.m., you're definitely not. Number 3. The Shoshine Shuffle. This scam is so perfectly choreographed, it deserves its own spot in performance art museums. Picture this. I'm walking near Galata Tower when I hear a clatter behind me. A shoe brush has fallen. The elderly shoe shiner seems unaware, so naturally, I picked it up. His gratitude is overwhelming. He insists on shining my shoes for free. 20 minutes later, I'm being demanded to pay 100 lira for a premium shine that should cost 10. What makes this scam genius is how it manipulates your good nature. By helping him, you're now socially obligated to accept his kindness, which quickly becomes an expensive obligation. I've seen this performed dozens of times, each with slight variations. Sometimes they'll start shining before you can object. Other times they'll claim the free shine only covers one shoe. It's like watching different productions of the same play. Number 4. The Taxi Tango. Every city has taxi scams, but Istanbul's cabbies have elevated it to an art form. Let me tell you about my most memorable taxi adventure. A simple 10-minute ride from Taksim to Sultanahmet somehow became a 45-minute scenic tour of every back alley in Istanbul. The driver's meter was broken, they always are, but he assured me he'd give me a special price. When we finally arrived, this special price was 4 times the normal rate. When I protested, he launched into an Oscar-worthy performance about his sick children and how tourists are all rich anyway. Here's what I've learned. Legitimate taxi drivers use meters without arguments. They don't need to take scenic routes, and they definitely don't have meters that mysteriously break just for tourists. Always use the Buy Taxi app or have your hotel call a reputable taxi. And keep Google Maps open. It's amazing how quickly a broken meter fixes itself when drivers know you're tracking the route. Number 5. The restaurant ruse. Turkish food is heavenly, but some restaurants serve it with a side of deception. Let me tell you about a place near Sultanahmet Square. No names mentioned, but locals know it well. The tout outside shows you a menu with reasonable prices, but once you're seated, a different menu appears. Or worse, no menu at all. I watched a family of 4 order a basic meal of kebabs and mezet. Oh, when the bill came, it was over 400 euros. The waiter's explanation? This is a special tourist menu price. When they protested, he produced a menu with tiny print listing astronomical prices. The defense? Always check prices before ordering. If a restaurant has touts dragging people in or no visible menu, walk away. The best places don't need to hunt for customers. They're usually full of locals who know their worth. Number 6. The Bosphorus Bluff. The Bosphorus cruise is a must-do in Istanbul, but it's also fertile ground for scammers. Last year, I watched a group of tourists pay 50 euros each for a luxury cruise that turned out to be an overcrowded fishing boat with plastic chairs. The English commentary was a recording so old, it referenced buildings that no longer existed. Legitimate cruises operate from official docks with proper tickets and posted prices. Avoid the guys hanging around Eminonu with laminated photos of boats. They're usually selling tickets for vessels that would make the Titanic look seaworthy. Number 7. The money manipulation. Currency scams here are subtle but effective. Watch out for the money changer who accidentally counts your change using old, worthless Turkish lira, or the cashier who swaps your 100 lira note for a 10 after you hand it over. Always count your change, immediately and openly. Learn the difference between old and new lira, and never exchange money with street vendors. Now, don't let all this scare you away from Istanbul. These scams are just small shadows in a city blazing with light and life. For every scammer, there are hundreds of genuine people who embody true Turkish hospitality. Just last month, I got lost in the back streets of Fethiye. An elderly man not only gave me directions, but walked me to my destination, bought me tea, and refused any payment. That's the real Istanbul, a city where kindness isn't a setup for a scam, but a way of life. Remember, awareness isn't paranoia. Keep these tips in mind, but stay open to the magic of this ancient city. Let the call to prayer move you. Haggle playfully in the bazaar. Savor every bite of baklava. Just do it with your eyes open and your wits about you. After all, Istanbul has survived for millennia. It's seen empires rise and fall, and still stands proud. A few tourist games aren't gonna dim its magic, not if you don't let them. So go forth, explore, and remember the old Turkish saying, Gula gula gezip, gula gula donan. May you travel with smiles and return with smiles. Just keep one hand on your wallet while you're smiling.